What do you do if you're feeling lonely? Fall in love with the process of healing. Every time you let go of pain and introduce some happiness, celebrate it, smile about it. When you feel yourself growing and transforming, stay present and truly fall in love with your growth. Healing can be a beautiful journey. Have you ever felt lonely? I bet if we were sitting in a room with 100 people and I asked the question, who knows what it's like to feel lonely? 100 out of 100 would raise their hand. It is a struggle we can all relate to. I remember the story of a mentor in my life. She talked about an experience as a young adult, and she was attending a new church, and she expected everyone to be welcoming and befriend her and talk to her because she was the new person. She sat next to a woman and neither of them talked. She later found out that that person was new also, and she was waiting for others to reach out and introduce themselves and be a friend. I think this is a meaningful story because so often we are waiting for someone else to be the catalyst for change or to create the circumstances that we so desperately want in our lives. When in reality, we have the ability and opportunity to be the friend to someone else, to be the one who gives the kind smile. Here's some questions I have about loneliness. This could be a free thought exercise or a journaling activity. What fears do I have about being alone? Do I like myself? Do I love myself? What acceptance and validation am I seeking from others to fulfill my need for being valued, worthy, and loved? What can I do to create connection and meaning in my life? Every obstacle is also an opportunity for growth. What can loneliness teach me about being a friend to others? How can you use the loneliness you felt to reach out and support others? We would all like to receive kindness and friendship. And I know it can be scary and uncomfortable, and sometimes the fear of being alone or rejected can keep us from taking action. My question is, do you want fear to be in the driver's seat of your life? Personal story time. I grew up in a very interesting area. It was upper middle class for sure, but it was really cliquish. It was really condescending. It was really, really interesting. You know that movie from the 90s, because that's when I went to high school, called She's All That? That movie is a bit excessive and hyped up and overblown, but it was really similar to the area I grew up in. And I lived in this same neighborhood my entire life, right? Since I was 4 years old. And I took a trip one summer and I had some friends and I was always the tomboy and stuff like that. And we took a trip for the summer and we were gone the entire summer. And I came back and I had no friends. And I'm sure all of us have stories from middle school and high school years about the challenging friend situation there was. Kids can be so mean. Kids can still be so mean. And I came back and I found in those early tween formidable years, I didn't have any friends. And that was so sad and that was so heartbreaking. And I remember making a commitment to myself at 12 years old that I recognized that at the moment I didn't have people who wanted to be my friends, but I could always be a friend to everyone else. And that I made a commitment that day and for days and years after that to always be a friend. And it took a couple years, but I showed up as that person. I was kind, I was interested, I was searching and seeking to be that kind person and that difference and that friend that I wanted to have in life. And it took a couple years, but you know, it worked. And I felt like I had a moment of victory, right? I was at a youth activity with a lot of the youth in our area, and there was the girls from my neighborhood there, and everybody was kind of standing around in their own different social groups, right? And I was going from social group to social group, you know, talking to them, asking them how, you know, what was going on in their lives, doing the things that teenagers do. And so I stopped by the social group that was my neighborhood, that I've known these people for over a decade, but we hadn't been friends for years because they didn't want a friendship. Who knows why? I've never asked them. But they asked me a question and they said, Alicia, you seem to know everyone here. What's your secret? How are you friends with so many people? And I said to them, you know what? I'm interested in them. I care about them and I care about who they really are and getting to know them, and I'm kind to them. And they just stood there and stared at me, with like wide deer in the headlights. I don't know if that was revelatory information to teenagers or if that was too far outside their comfort zone. But I'm so grateful at the young age that I was that I learned that lesson, and I still show up that way. I mean, my life is full of so many things still, and sometimes all I can manage is what's going on for me. But we're always able to give that kind smile, to hold open the door, to ask someone how their day is going, and to really mean it. So I have a question for you. What is one action you can take today to move forward to creating the life or habits that you want to have to combat the loneliness you feel? Even if it's one step in the direction that you want to go, that is so small that you cannot possibly fail. I think sometimes we're trying to bridge the gap of the Grand Canyon in our life between where we are and where we want to be. But canyons aren't crossed in a single bound, unless you're Superman. They are traversed one step at a time. That is also the way we bring about great change in our life. It is through small and simple means. Could you do me a favor? If this video has been meaningful or helpful for you, will you please share it with a friend or a loved one that needs this same support? And please remember to keep shining. We need your light.